Superannuation is a scam for business owners and entrepreneurs are stealing away tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of your hard-earned money. I'm going to explain to you the perspective from a serial entrepreneur who has run multiple six-figure businesses and consults and mentors many service-based businesses to grow from zero to multi-six figures themselves in the health, medicine, and service-based industry. Let's unveil the deception. I'm going to go through this presentation and explain to you the logic of it and who it's for and who it's not. So, superannuation, 401ks, the retirement idea. We're going to first cover who is it for, what we can do about it, and the logic behind it and the illogic behind it. So, who's superannuation for? First, let's consider people with a low financial literacy. This works for them well because they don't have to think about it, and it solves that problem that, okay, I'm going to retire. If I can respectfully say the NPCs, superannuation is for the NPCs. It is not for the forward-thinking, ambitious types who are trying to gain control and freedom of their life, like I'm going to explain to you here. They don't want to learn about how to invest money or actively invest. They don't. They just want to have it handled for them. And they're not interested in engaging in the process themselves and being an active participant rather as a passive user. Employees who don't get a choice. You don't get a choice, you're going to have superannuation being put in, but it doesn't mean you have to make extra contributions, and it doesn't mean that you have to adopt the ideology and the thinking of the NPC the poor man's thinker ideology that is thinking about retiring when you're 65 and deferring the best of your life till then. If you want to wait 40 to 50 years, then retire. That's who it's for. And people who want to live the best years of their life when they're at the last stages of their life. If you're those things, you can click off this video, bye-bye. But this isn't for you. This is for the people who want more. The people who are questioning, wait a second. Why do I have to do this? Isn't there another way? And what about this retirement thing? Should I retire? People telling me, oh, you can have it when you retire. It's a safety net. Well, let's first unpack the idea of retirement and why it's wrought with error. Superannuation is a long-term investment that grows over time. The more you contribute during your work life, the more you'll have for retirement, guys. The more you'll have for retirement. Don't you want to retire? Don't you want to have stability when you retire? There's cases for this, right? Well, when you're old and you're not going to be able to work anymore because you're not going to be as physically, strong maybe, or, not going to be as into it. And, you want to just be with your family now and, with your grandchildren. You want to just, sail off into the sunset on your sailboat. Well, don't you want something for then? We'll take care of it. The managed funds, privately owned or government state controlled, we'll take care of it. You give us your money. We'll invest it. We'll invest it for you over 40, 50 years. Yeah. Well, let's break down. Age 60 and changing jobs, you can gain access to your retirement. If you cease an employment arrangement on or after reaching 60 or age 65, if you're still working, you can gain access to your superannuation, or if you retire at that age too. So, you don't get access to your money until the government says. Does that not bother you? Does that not concern you that you don't get access to your money until someone else says? Don't you want more control over your life than that? How do you even know you're going to make it to 65? Because by the time you're 65, 50% of the Australian population, the Western US population, have at least one comorbidity. Which means some type of health ailment, condition, or disease that measurably impacts their quality of life, if I can layman's terms it for you. So, that's going to be many of you. 50% of the people watching this on average, it's going to be. So, okay, I guess you'll wait till then, till the government can let you give you your money. What if you want access to the money earlier? What if you want to retire at a different age? What if you want to do something different with your money? What if you change your mind? This doesn't allow for any of that. It's decided for you. Your fate and destiny is decided by someone else. And if you're the type of person who wants to create their own reality and not have someone else control it, then you might want to second guess superannuation. But let's question the notion, are you sure you want to retire? Are you sure? The key statistics are this. Average retirement age, for all retirees in Australia is 56.9. 130,000 people retired. And this is from the ABS website. So these are official statistics. 130k retired 22 with an average of 64.8 years. Average people intend to retire is 65. So people are retiring somewhere between 57 to 65 years, with the average being in 2022 65. So this 57, I believe, is all the data. So pension is also the main source of income for retirees. Pension. So the government aid. So you need to consider this, because the pension and retirement is very helpful for low-income earners, and it saves a lot of people's quality of life. And it's great that the government has a support system in place for that our tax dollars are paying. However, don't you want to be more than that? Do you want to live off a pension? Of course you don't. If you're in my ecosystem, you're looking to make hundreds of thousands, if not much more than that, so you can prosper and create the life of your dreams, not when you're 65, but now, tomorrow, next week, next year, in the coming years. So are you sure you want to retire? So one of my biggest premises is, why are you waiting to the end of your life to live the best years of your life? You could just stop there and have a very strong argument. 50% of Australians have 2 or more chronic health comorbidities by the time they're 65. As I said, arthritis is 41% of them. And arthritis ain't even that difficult to get. It's not like people in, like, say for example me, someone who is obviously extremely diligent towards their health wellness, doing blood work. I'm on top of it. Functional health practitioner, of course I am. Have been doing it since I was a teenager. But I can't discount the fact that by the time I'm 65 to 75, that I might have a little bit of that. Now, I choose not to, because I have a different mindset, and I'm going to be doing things in place to minimize that. However, 41% of you may. So you got to think about this. Let's say you retire, you wait till you're 50, 60, 70. Okay. And you want to travel, right? Because that's what a lot of people want to do when they retire. They want to travel. All right. Why do you assume you're going to have the type of health that is going to be conducive to your even interest and want to travel? Do you know how many people make it to that age in their 50s and 60s and say that they look at traveling and it's too intimidating for them because they can only afford economy class tickets and don't want to sit like this in a coffin for 7 to 20 hours, and it's too uncomfortable because their health isn't in that great a position and they're not like they used to be? But when they were 20 or 30 or 40, they thought, okay, when I retire, I'm going to travel. But because they deferred and they didn't think about the future and all the different conditions they may have, their quality of life is dramatically worse. And now they're depressed and they're sad and they're apathetic and they're regretful that they should have done something different had they had known. Well, now you know that 1 out of 10 of you are going to have the early signs of dementia by the time you're 65. Now that's most people have no idea how to address that. Yeah, you can have some basic healthy habits, but most people have no idea about the genetics and the different types of influences that affect dementia. Now, I do. I know I can screen for the APO genotype. I understand the omega-3 index that I need to have to minimize this. I understand the role of concussions in Alzheimer's, sleep, the lymphatic system, and how important that is, and facilitating that. But most people don't, and maybe some of you don't, until you see a professional like me. Fair enough that you don't, but don't wait. You're going to wait to retire to live the life you want. You might think, use your money now to live the life you want, and maybe not in some type of haphazard, mindless way, but in a way where you're using your money now and not giving it to some hedge fund or some country, state-controlled, government-controlled organization that is going to invest your money for you and make way more money off it, mind you. Equip yourself with the tools and knowledge and skills to make more money than an 8% return that they're going to give you, not including tax. So that is part of what the Money Mastery course is about. Now, if you want to know more about the Money Mastery course, you got to make sure you go on my Instagram, because I can show you how to get access to the rest of it. Now, why are you also assuming you want to stop working? This is quite a misguided assumption. Why would you assume you want to stop working? Now, there's two categories of people that this is going to apply to. Okay, one, there's the type of person that is in a blue collar job, and then they're going to want to, I think I have it here. So yes, business owners, blue collar. It makes sense for the blue collar who's been working as a garbage man, or someone who's working in an office, or a retail manager, things like that, to want to retire, have a family, then retire. It makes sense. It's the natural sequence and flow of typical matrix programming. Okay. However, you're also making an assumption, because what happens to people, what will happen to you is that you will get into a identity being associated with your work and profession. Not only that, is that you gain a great sense of self-satisfaction, purpose, meaning. We derive a lot of meaning and purpose and fulfillment from our work. Humans need to be useful to stimulate their mind. I want to be useful to the human family, and ultimately so do you. People who make the most money are the most useful, minus stocks and cryptocurrencies, because there's a trading off. You don't have to give value to make money there. So minus that, you want to give value, you want to be impactful, and the more money you make, generally the more valuable you are to the human family in the market. So you want to just stop all that? Do you just want to stop working? Okay, let's just stop working. Everybody wants to stop working and just retire. Okay, let's do it. Let's do it now. We're doing it. We're done. This is it. Is this it? Now, I'm obviously making a hyperbole exaggeration here, but okay. I look outside. Fucking sexy, beautiful New York City outside. Awesome. So I can retire. I'm good. Sipping pina coladas, watching the beautiful view. I'm at the beach, I'm at the city. Is that all you want? That's it. No, it's not all you want. You don't just want to satisfy your internal desires and pleasures. Yeah, you're going to do that for a period of time before you get bored, depressed, sad, and lose a great sense of meaning from your life. Because meaning isn't derived from instant gratification. A human soul and heart and mind is not engaged on a deep level, in a meaningful level, in a level that makes you excited to get up every single morning, not to just chase hedonism. Because once you taste all the different colors of the rainbow, what else is there? What else is there? And so when I come here, and I'm speaking from experience, now obviously I'm not retired because I have no interest in retiring. Why would I want to retire from doing something I want to do? Huh? So the question is, how do you design a life where you can do what you want to do? How do you design a life that you don't want to retire from? That is the ultimate question. And I'm going to be taking you through some of the questions you can ask in this and in the How to Create Your Rich Life in the Money Mastery course. It's already up there. In exercises you can do to answer that question. So, how do you create a life you don't want to retire from? Because I understand that many people who are working blue-collar jobs or everyday jobs, they do want to retire one day. However, even if you do retire, there are some consequences that can happen. And I'm going to show you them even regardless of who you are. Let's talk about another thing. Are you sure you want to retire? I'll travel the world and enjoy leisure time. Well, back to the point one. Are you sure you want to gamble the next 40 years on that bet when physically and mentally you may not be able to as much or want to because of your physical or mental limitations that will come at some point? And so the question is, live now. Live now. No, that's not the question. That's the statement. The statement is, and the thing to face is, how much do you want to live now versus live later? How much do you want to live now versus live later? Are you sure? Now, because a lot of people envision retirement like this. It's like a light switch. Oh, I'm done now. I don't need to work anymore. And what happens? They end up just watching Netflix all the time. And there's two paths that happen from my observation. They'll engage in a lot of pleasure-seeking activities, and they might travel for a long time too. They might travel for a long time. They might, take 3-6 months sabbaticals away, right? But then you come back home. And then what's next? Oh, you plan the next trip. So sure, for the small minority who are actually hooked on the nomadic exploration of the world and the inner fulfillment that gives them, sure. But for a lot of you, that's actually, a lot of people, that's not it. Like, that's not the majority, guys. That's a minority who are traveling the world and it lights up their soul enough and they have the money to actually do so and the enthusiasm and the physical capabilities. Guys, do y'all know traveling can be fatiguing and tiring? Sometimes you need the holiday from the holiday because the holiday ain't a holiday because you're so physical and you're exploring, you're doing so much. So consider that. And then the other path, and this is how you actually make a good retirement from a behavioral perspective, is that to minimize the downsides of the depression and some of the downsides we're talking about here around feeling a lack of sense of purpose in life, is that you got to make sure that some minority of people who do it right, well, they go into the communities, they join clubs, they start to do a lot more activities, they put in effort into their life, they make an effort to start putting themselves out there and give themselves a community and sense of belonging. And in that instance, retirement can be really great for a lot of people, or for those people, but a lot of people aren't mindful of that, and they float off into distant obscurity and just become invisible to the society around them, and they just operate just on the inertia of just like living on a whim. I'm using a lot of kind of fluffy words here, but they're basically doing nothing. They're not putting in an effort to live the life that would create the quality of life that some of you are really wishing for. And some of you will do that if you're not conscious of it. If you're not mindful, you've got to put in some effort. And it's a lot easier to put in effort when you're in your prime years and you have unlimited energy in your 20s and 30s and teenage years to create the life you want and start living the life you want. You don't need this idea of like this prostitution of like traveling for 3 to 6 months to have a great life. Like, you can travel in your city and state once a month, or and start like playing with it in different states around you. Especially if you live in America, you've got 50 different countries in one country. You can take a road trip and hire a van for a few $100 or $500 and just start going on. It's like, you don't need necessarily always a lot of money to start living this life that you guys think you need tens of thousands of dollars for. A lot of the experience that many of you are wishing for can be experienced already right now if you just take a weekend off every few weeks. What you are wishing for, part of it is available to you now. I'm going to show you how you've been psyoped. I went into the research and I looked at the short-term and long-term impacts of retirement. The short term is uncertain, but the longer terms are consistently negative and large in comparison to people who don't retire. And so, using measures where each person is classified into binary categories or either ill or healthy, being retired at the first wave has the following effects. It decreased the likelihood of being in very good or excellent self-assessed health by 39%. It increased the probability of suffering from a clinical depression by 41%. It increases the probability of having at least one diagnosed physical condition by 63%. You know, it makes sense because people are going to be generally less physically, moving physically less. They're not as ambulant like they would be in their job. It increases the probability of taking a drug for such a condition by 60%. Then we look at the figure here, the impact of retirement on self-assessed health, and we see in the retired how the average health goes down, and the second strategy, the second time point, it goes down again. So in comparison to people who are still working. So this idea that retirement is some golden age where you guys are all going to thrive and do so amazing, yeah, for some of you who are really diligent and mindful and are living a life of health and mindfulness, for some of you. But for many of you, you're being completely psyoped and tricked, and you're giving away a lot of your money when you could be making much more of it, which I'll show you at the end how to do. And if you want more evidence and ammunition to the risk that we're taking by keeping more than the insurance of what a bank can cover, of the risk that we're taking by keeping all this money in the bank and keeping it in superannuation funds. And when I say more, the bank insures a certain amount, usually about $200,000, that if the bank goes bankrupt, or something happens to the bank goes bankrupt and something like that happens, then your insurance is covered from that point. If you have anything above that, I would be having way different investment strategies beyond that. But I need to explain to you guys that you don't own your money. You're at the risk of the government helping themselves to it. Bankrupt countries have a history of taking their citizens' private wealth. I didn't know this before listening to the Nomad Capitalist and listening to his book. Chapter 11, I just skip straight to that, on those chapters towards the end are the best. Let's explain. Argentina in 2002 experienced a severe financial crisis resulting in a default on its debts. The government froze bank accounts and converted savings into devalued pesos, affecting citizens' wealth, including retirement funds. Okay, all right, one example, Alexander. All right, that's all right. Hungary, only just a little over 10 years ago. Hungary, Argentina, okay, South American, but Hungary is like, you're in the EU. I believe you're in the EU, European country. Nationalized private pension funds to reduce public debt. So they were privately owned, and they said no longer. Now, they're nationalized, transferring assets into state pension systems controlled by the government and the state. This action directly impacted citizens' retirement savings, converting private funds into state-controlled assets. Poland did the same thing in 2014. So when a country goes through a financial crisis, and consider Australia, as of recording, is nearly $1 trillion in debt. The US is about $34 trillion in debt. It is when a country, this is complex, but when a country accumulates a certain amount of debt that it cannot ease, and the risk of defaulting, especially when there's banks involved that are over leveraged, the risk of defaulting becomes significantly higher and higher. And it becomes a point where the pressure cooker becomes too much and a recession happens. And then things start to get defaulted. So they may do the same. It is not without precedence, because these are just 3 countries I've mentioned. There are 11 other countries that have done so in the past, in the decades before. This is not unprecedented. And just because we live in the cushy comfort of our Western world, do not think that because things feel safe and secure doesn't mean it is. Look what happened in 2020 to 2023. All right? That is an example of a government overreaching and taking a lot of control in a way that people didn't anticipate. Well, we have history to say we can anticipate this. And so are you sure you want to put your hands in, you want to put your future and your life and your hard-earned money in the hands of states and countries that have, systems rather, that's more accurate, systems that have not proven their reliability? That's up to you. Finishing off, what is true retirement? What do you want from retirement? Because we're really about to, okay, so Alexander, if you're saying like we're not going to be, you should maybe not question retirement. Well, I still want to live a great life. People want the qualities of retirement. And so how do we create the qualities of retirement in the near future, in the now? And so what retirement is, if we really ask, we want optionality, we want freedom, we want to travel, you want family time. You will not have to work anymore, which I think is wrought with error, because when you don't work, you become a floating husk through society and quite useless. You want to be useful. So you want to choose a career you get to do instead of one that you have to do. Now, I understand this isn't practical advice for everybody, because you must have cogs in the wheel for the system to function. However, I'm not talking to those people. I'm talking to the ones you guys want to win. You guys want to escape the system. So you want to pick. Now, I understand sometimes you have to do things that you have to do things you want to do. You often have to do things you have to do. To do things you want to do, you often have to do things you have to do. You know how much I've worked for free, how many terrible, shitty jobs that I've worked, like over half a dozen growing up as a teenager, even as a 20-year-old, until then I started to really hit. Not have someone tell them what to do, because autonomy and control is highly valued in humans. So that's what you want from retirement. And business owners, they get this. Passion pursuits. You want to pursue your passions. You want to focus on your health. You want to enjoy life. You want to slow down. Well, you now have to ask yourself, how do you create? Because a lot of you guys are thinking to defer this till later. Dumb idea. Wrong. It's illogical, but let me give you hope. It can be done now. I'm doing all of that now. And so are my students and mentees. Like, I'm teaching them like how to create the life where they can do that now. So here's the questions to ask. What do you have to do to create mini recurring retirements every quarter or bi-yearly? Okay, what would that look like? How do you incorporate weekly and daily retirement behaviors and boundaries? How much more time do you really want to be able to travel on average? Because again, people are prostituting the 3 months, 6 months away. That's like the minimum boundary that counts, and then I can travel. Like, I'm only going to travel if I can do it for this. Like, come on, man. Are you serious? It's like this arbitrary number. Where did you get it from? Like, that's obviously not the only way you can travel. And have, not just travel, but have the experience you're looking for. People's lives when they travel, they change in a matter of moments, not months, in moments. It's the moments that can happen on any day and in a series of hours, which you can start living immediately. Family, let's say you want to retire for family. Like, how much more time do you really want to spend with your family? You know, do you want to spend like every moment with them? It's like, no, none of you are trying to do that. You know, you probably, what can fix a lot of this is just, well, how about you just have dinner together a few days a week and you do one shared activity? Like, all of a sudden, you don't need to retire to have the family connection that you were seeking. How much do you really want to spend on other passions? Language learning. You want to learn instruments. You want to start that little small business just for fun. Okay, so here's how you do it. You spend all your non-working hours on that. I know it's a crazy idea. And I know it's easy said than done. Yeah, but it's only done by people who don't say that. After work, 1 hour. Every time after work. On the weekends. The time away, that's when you work on these small businesses and hobbies. What does it look like to place 30, 60 minutes of enjoyment? Because people want to retire from enjoyment daily. Like, for some people, it's literally going to be as simple as like, I mean, I just want to watch some movies or some TV shows at the end of the day. Some people, it's going to be like, I want to go out to nice dinners. Some people, it's going to be like, I want to go to the beach and just, I want to go to the beach every day and like wake up with the sun and go to sleep. Okay, I want to be in nature. Okay. Well, like, what's a mini version of that you can create now? Can you go outside to your patio and look at the stars at night? Or can, the sunrise in the morning? Can you walk, if you live near a beach, can you walk down to the beach? Can you walk down to the local park? I know it's not the ideal life, perfect life that you want now. But why unnecessarily complain about the present and wish things would be different when you can create mini versions of that? And then you realize, oh, this is actually kind of nice. And it motivates you to continue to do more. So think on average for these questions, not over years, not the short term of what you want, because a lot of you are going to be like, oh, I want to do this big thing and this big thing and this big thing. Think on average, because your life isn't just a series of big things like big 3-month travel sabbaticals or, big experiences. Like, I don't know, I want to do I want to go to, actually no, people do this. This is a good example. I want to go to Thailand and do a fight camp for 2 weeks and go learn Muay Thai for a couple of weeks. Like, people do that. That's an example of, instead of, oh, I want to retire so I can then go do Muay Thai and do these fighting sports that I've always wanted to do. Like, can you go for like a week or 2 weeks in Thailand? Can you go down to the local BJJ studio and do once a week? Of course you can. And the ultimate question is, what if you created a life that you weren't trying to escape from? And by answering these questions, you can start to create a life that you're not trying to escape from and defer until retirement. What do you do instead, though? What do you do with the money? If superannuation ain't the go, what do we do? Now, I'm going to provide a simple but elegant, practical, and highly utilized in the dirt example of what I've done time and time again. So during 2020 era, the government in Australia, they said you can take your superannuation. I took it all out. Thank you. Thank God. And I used that money. Now, what did I use it for? Let me show you. Well, $10,000 in superannuation versus $10,000 into the superannuation, as I call it. Let's compare the returns. 8% return versus a 50 to 200% return in 1 year. You might think, Alexander, Saad, people call me Saad too. How are you going to get a 50 to 200% return in 1 year? What are you doing? Are you trading stocks, crypto? You could, sure. That's an option. You're welcome to do that. But to me, these are more self-evident, obvious options, right? Of course you could trade stocks. Of course you could do real estate. Options trading. Sure, go ahead, do it. But you better be doing it under the guide of someone who understands what they're doing, unless you want to spend the hundreds of hours learning yourself and making all the mistakes yourself. Up to you. I prefer to just pay someone to teach me. Now, 8% return is the average from a superannuation fund. the 50 to 200%, yes, obviously we could do the other ones that we talked about just now about trading and real estate. However, what the biggest ROI investment strategy that I have ever done, that I recurringly do, that has gotten me the biggest ROI, sometimes even 500 to 1,000% return, is something that many of you are just not going to do. It's something that you guys are going to be afraid to do. You guys can be like, time's not right. This, that, and the other, whatever excuses. Now, I acknowledge the fear and uncertainty of it, but I can tell you what has worked for me to get me to live in a beautiful, expensive place like this and create my rich life and be very content there. And my students as well, to be able to live where they want. Find people who are doing what you want to do and pay them to teach you how to do it. I know. I was originally resistant to this. I didn't do it when I first heard it. I promise you, I didn't do it when I first heard it. I felt resistive. It was like, who's the right person? What's the right vehicle to do it in? All I can say to you is that every day delayed is a day delayed from the life that you want. And so it's simple. Let's say your dream is to move to New York like it was mine and have a city view in a beautiful apartment and not have to stress about money. And, maybe you're a health professional as well. Well, perhaps it would be a good idea, or a great idea even, to ask me some questions and see how I did it. Whatever your dream is, whatever your goal is, and whatever industry you're in, go to the person or the people who are doing what you want to do. Or let's say your dream's up here, but you have steps to the dream. Like let's say you want to go from 50,000 to 100,000, but the ultimate goal is 500,000 to 1 million. Well, you don't have to go to the guy who's got 1 million, because he might be completely unattainable from you. He might have a $50,000, $100,000 mentorship. That's just unreachable for you right now. But what about if you went to the mentor, the consultant, the guy, the girl that could help you go from zero to 50,000 or 50,000 to 100,000? And now suddenly that's a lot more attainable. Then once you get to 100, you go move on. You go find the next person that can help you that's doing maybe 300,000. And then they help you get to 300. And then you have more leverage of capital to be able to go there. And you just scale it until you can get to the ultimate goal. And I put a comment here about conditional guarantees, because with when you pay consultants, when you pay coaches, health professionals, consultants, mentorships, it can be a fear, because like, oh my God, that's a lot of money, thousands of dollars, $10, $15, $20, $30, $50,000, right? Okay. You feel this in your chest. You're like, oh, I don't know. All right. The way to get around that is look at testimonials and message the people who have done the thing that you're looking to invest in, and ask them for honest feedback. How was it? I'm nervous. Should I be? Like, go to the people. Like, guys, if any of you are thinking, oh, maybe one day work with Strength of Saad, maybe, and you're a bit on the fence, like, your delaying is costing you money. At least find out if I'm BS or not. So you can at least, like, if I am BS, at least you can move on to the next person. Like, that's the thing. Like, you'll be able to know quicker. And if I'm not, at least you'll know that I'm not, and you can just make a decision faster. So message the people, and then ask the people who are doing their mentorships, the people who you're trying to pay to help you get where you want, if they can have a conditional guarantee. Now, I do have conditional guarantees with everything I do. This means that if you do XYZ, right? Let's say you do my business mentorship, or you do Trinity. If you listen to XYZ and 95% of the things that I tell you to do, and you don't get the result you want, then one of two things happens. The most common one is that you'll get your money back, or the person will mentor you and consult with you for free until you do make that money you've invested back, or you never pay more money than you've invested. And so this is a conditional guarantee that I have in Trinity, where my students always, after the deposit, they always make more money than what the program investment costs. So they're always at a profit, and that they're never out of pocket. But they have to make the money first. I have to prove that I'm worth my salt and that I can help support you before you give me any of your hard-earned money. I believe that's the fairest way to do it. And it really separates those who are truly confident and truly, not just confident, because confidence comes from getting results, from those who can truly get results with people and those who do not. If you ask for a conditional guarantee and someone can't give it to you, I would be skeptical. Now, either they have so much demand that they don't need to, that's fine, or it's because maybe a part of them is uncertain whether they can get you the result. Consider that. That way, you can completely de-risk it. You completely de-risk it, and all you need is an upfront for whatever mentorship consulting you're doing, and then the rest is just profit. And at that point, isn't it a no-brainer? So now this is how you get 50 to 200% returns. You take the money from the superannuation and you put it into here instead. And you might want to start a business. Let's say you're doing, a blue collar job and you're wanting to start a business. You take that money that you would have and you don't put it in the 8% return. You do it into what can be thousands of percent return, and you bet on yourself and you go, why not? Why not? Go for it. See what happens. Don't wait to regret. And you build a business and you build skills that make you more valuable to the market. The last thing I would say is that get clear on your rich life, because not all of you need all of this money. Like, guys, you can live in Thailand or Bali or Southeast or even Malaysia, like for, 60, 70, 80K, humble living like a really good life. So get clear on your rich life. The modules in the Trinity School LMS, get clear on your rich life. Remember, all the Money Mastery course is free. And now you should have if any of your peers or parents or family or friends are pressuring you to do the superannuation thing, send them this way, send them the video, and then you'll be able to have a much clearer, they'll be able to have a much clearer understanding about where you're coming from without you having to do the fight. So let me do the fight for you, and let me know on Instagram @strengthofsaad what you took away from this, and if you disagree with any of this, that would be great, because I'm looking to refine my thinking, and if you can provide a better argument to this, then I'm all ears, and I'll make a new video to explain it all. Money Mastery course, there's a dozen other videos in here that go through the foundations of how to become financially free and improve dramatically your relationship with money. You can find out more at Strength of Saad.